All right, welcome back to the Meat of the Matter. We are here with a guest today, Nathaniel, Nate. We are going to hear his story. We're going to hear all about his experiences and how he got to where he's at right after this.
Else is sick and fucking tired of seeing all the carnivore shit all over these fucking apps. No one cares if you only eat meat. Every single one of you have to identify by carnivore fucking Connie, carnivore Ken, whatever the fuck your name is, and you add carnivore to the end of it on your fucking bio is fucking weird. Weird. You're literally treating your diet like a fucking religion. A religion. A meat religion. Okay? Like, what in the absolute meat fuck is this shit? Your fucking boards with your eggs and your cheese and your fucking butter and your dates. Who cares? You can't shit. Your fiber intake is fucking zero, and you think you're just fucking trudging through life getting all healthy. Get the fuck out of here. No one cares. Your meat fucking ass, your meat farts, your meat sweats.
We go live every Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. in the UK and Ireland, 7 p.m. in the Netherlands and in Europe. But we also get a chance to sit down with guests and hear real stories, real people doing real things. You know, we're not doctors, we're not scientists, and we'd like to welcome today Nate. Welcome to the Meat of the Matter. Thanks for sitting down and joining us today. And I'm excited to. I haven't met you. This is Mark's little. He's got you to come on, so I'm excited to hear your story and what you're all about. So we're just gonna throw it over to you and let us know if you want to begin where you what happened to you, how you got here, and yeah, we'll just start from there.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for having me. That was a really cool intro, by the way. Made me laugh.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just go ahead and start with my story then. So yeah, I lived a pretty normal, Western diet type lifestyle for my whole entire life. I've always been into bodybuilding and weightlifting and all that stuff. Started weightlifting when I was 13 years old, and I never really looked back. I've done it consistently since, and I've always taken it seriously. And I joined the military out of high school at 18, 19 years old. It took me a little while to get in. Went in when I was 19, and still did all my bodybuilding stuff. I was huge into lifting. It was kind of like the main thing I did outside of all my military stuff that I had to take care of. And typical bro diet. Tons of rice, chicken, tons of fiber, Quest bars, cereal, oatmeal, all the bro stuff. The typical bodybuilder diet. Kind of like Lane Norton type diet essentially. And it worked for me for a while when I was young. I didn't have any issues. And then I started having stomach issues over time from that. I had done one competition when I was 20 years old, I think I was. And I did that all on, if it fits your macros, standard like sugary diet, made sure I had like 40 grams of fiber a day, all that stuff. I tracked all that. And I went to do my second competition the same way a couple years later after that. I think I was probably like 21 years old, maybe 22. The timeline's a little fuzzy because it's been a while. But after that, I started having stomach issues, and they kind of started showing up slowly over time. And they gradually got more and more severe. So I would just be having unexplained like urgency out of nowhere. And, I was kind of confused at what was happening to me. And it slowly over time started getting worse and worse and worse until a point where it was kind of like tormenting my life. And I didn't know what was going on with me. I was kind of getting scared actually, because it was painful. It was out of the blue, and it was like uncontrollable essentially, no matter what I did. So that was the time I was living in New York. I was doing Army support. I wasn't in the Air Force, but I was doing Army support. And that was a very stressful number of years just with the work alone. And then you put on top of that, I'm trying to like do my bodybuilding thing and just, shovel food down my throat and try to grow as much as possible, that whole thing, bulking and all that. And combination of all those things led to me having these stomach issues, and kind of led to my body basically, I guess, revolting in a sense. Because I guess you can only eat so many Quest bars until you have issues. But yeah, I didn't know what was going on for me for a couple years. I even deployed out to Poland for some military stuff out there, and that's when my problems really got very bad, where I was having daily issues with my stomach, and it was getting to be severely painful. And of course, I went to doctors, and they didn't know what was going on. It took them forever to diagnose me. Like literally took them like almost 2 years to diagnose me. Um, Eventually I, got through the whole Poland experience where my symptoms just got to their absolute worst and I couldn't stand it anymore. So I finally like really started pushing the doctors to figure out what's going on. So I ended up moving to Arizona after I came back from Poland, still with the military, and finally got to go to a gastroenterologist after the general practitioners finished putting me through their ringer. And they started doing all these tests on me, anything you could think of, like colonoscopy, endoscopy, pill can endoscopy. I had to do like CT scans where they were, injecting color so that they could see all my stuff, like all my organs and whatnot. And it was quite an experience to eventually finally be told that I had Crohn's disease. So I was like, oh, great. I have like one of the worst bowel diseases that you can have, basically. And it felt like it was the worst thing in the world because I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, to be completely honest. So my solution originally was, okay, well, at this time I hadn't been really taking my diet super seriously. I had kind of just been, still eating like high protein and whatnot, but I kind of just would go out and grab like a Subway or whatever that's convenient, because of between work and travel and all that stuff. It was just easy. And I thought, okay, I'll go back to my old bodybuilding diet because that was the last time that I didn't have stomach problems. That was just my logical thought process. The last time I didn't have problems was the last time I prepped. So I tried to go back to my old like bro diet, and I started doing the whole like oatmeal, broccoli, rice, chicken. And ironically, my problems got significantly worse, which was like mind blowing to me. I was like, okay, what the heck's going on here? I need help. I don't know what's going on. And I was getting very desperate. I'm not going to go into details about my issues. People can look up what happens with the Crohn's disease, but it's pretty bad. Um, but yeah, I was mind blown. I was like, man, I'm going back to this diet. I'm trying to like count my macros. I was doing what I knew how to do basically, and it was making everything worse somehow. So, I was getting very desperate. And around that same time, I came across Dr. Sean Baker with his carnivore diet. And up until this point, I did not eat red meat at all because I believed all of the, you know, like, oh, red meat's going to cause heart disease and all that stuff. I believed all those silly lies, basically. Um, So I didn't touch red meat. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna touch this stuff if it's gonna mess my heart up. I don't want that to happen because that runs in my family is what I thought. So I'm just gonna stay away from that. And I saw Dr. Sean Baker talking about the carnivore diet, and I was like, what? This makes no sense. This is so crazy. But he was talking about how it can help with autoimmune issues. And I was like so desperate that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give this a shot because, I don't want to be stuck on these crazy, like, honestly, insane medications that the gastroenterologists push on people with irritable bowel disease that are like, you know, not first and foremost, these medicines aren't well tested. When you actually go read the studies, they're statistically manipulated for the outcomes so that they can get them regulated by the FDA and pushed out to people to make money. So when I read the studies on a lot of these biologics and stuff that they want to push on you, I just was not satisfied with the results of the studies. Most of the people that were in the studies, drop out because of adverse events and stuff like that. And I did try the medications, and I got instant very bad side effects from them. We could talk about that later if you guys want. But yeah, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give this a shot. This doctor is like kind of like laying it all out and proving that there are people that do this, for long periods of time and have actually beneficial health outcomes. So it's like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna try this because I'm pretty freaking desperate right now, and I'm tired of having all these uncontrollable stomach problems. Because at the point that I was at that time, I was like, it was so bad. I was like, essentially having like anxiety from it. I would have panic attacks in public, stuff like that, because like I just couldn't go anywhere if I didn't know where the bathroom was, essentially, and feel okay being out in public. It was, you know, a nightmare basically. So I gave it a shot. The way I started off with the carnivore diet was pretty much just like I had a little bit of eggs and bacon and stuff like that, but mainly I was just eating as many steaks as I could. I just went to the store and bought the giant packs of steaks, and I would just eat like 3 or 4 steaks a day. And it was pretty magical. I did have a rough adjustment period at first where I had like the whole like fat digestion adjustment where you kind of get that carnivore diarrhea that people talk about a lot. I had that happen, but let me tell you what, like as far as the Crohn's front and the inflammation front is concerned, it took me like a week, about a week, and I could feel a tangible difference in my body to where like I was like, "Huh, I like kind of feel good. This is weird." Like I just felt good. I don't know how to explain it other than I felt good. It's a feeling you can only experience, I think, really, not really describe it so much. And even with the adjustment period, I could tell my stomach felt way better. Like there was like a burden, a load taken off my intestinal system, essentially. So I was very mind blown by this, and I was like, okay, well, I think I might have found something. So I continued on it. Um, and things just got better from there. Once I finally adjusted to the diet, it was like I don't even have Crohn's disease anymore. This is like absolutely mind blowing to me. And I got like, and I also found that I got super lean from it. And that's just in my opinion, just a beneficial side effect that you don't expect. But it was very easy to maintain like a really nice body composition that I was happy with. It took almost zero effort or thought. My performance in the gym didn't get hurt at all from it. I would say maybe even maybe not my performance in the gym improved, but my performance across the day improved as far as mental clarity and consistent energy and stuff like that. And then like stomach bloating, all of it went away. I really only had positive effects from it, to be completely honest. I guess the only thing you would say is that could even be considered a drawback maybe is that you have to restrict your food. But in my opinion, I never really missed any of the stuff that I was eating because it was harming me so badly. So yeah, I mean, it was a long time for me to get to that point to where I was so desperate that I wanted to try something that I would just try anything. And I feel like I got very fortunate to come across Dr. Baker because, he introduced me to the carnivore diet, which basically, for all intents and purposes, uh, made me feel like I didn't even have any version of irritable bowel disease whatsoever. So that was pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's basically been history since then. I don't know. I mean, that was a while ago. I don't even know how many years it's been that I've been doing the carnivore diet, but since then I have basically been either completely carnivore as far as like lion diet is concerned. That's my favorite way to do it, actually. Uh, to like kind of like animal based carnivore adjacent. I've kind of played around with a little bit of all of it. And now I'm actually in a phase where I'm going back to strict carnivore now. Um, I've kind of played around with different things to see what triggers me and stuff like that. Uh, Unfortunately, it seems like pretty much all plants trigger me, but that's okay. But yeah, so I've even done like a bodybuilding competition, which Mark is familiar with. I did a bodybuilding competition on straight up lion diet. That was a really good experience too for me. I definitely learned a lot of things in that will need to be adjusted in the future, but it definitely works extremely well for cutting for like people interested in that type of stuff or just dieting in general. I think it's probably carnivore is probably the best approach for just trying to lose body fat because it's just so simple and so straightforward. And also you don't deal with any of those cravings and you know downsides of dieting like a lot of people experience with a Western diet with carbohydrates and stuff.
Mm. Oh yeah, well, I'll just add one thing to what Nate said there. The one thing I focused on because I always said I would never do a bodybuilding competition on a standard like American diet or the standard European diet where you have to eat 6 times a day. So I just couldn't do it. But the biggest thing for me was the hormone switch, the brain clarity. I went into that show, as you know, Nate, because you did it yourself.
Hmm.
I was I was functioning perfectly, and I was walking around with like 5% body fat. Like literally, there was nothing on my body whatsoever. But I was functioning perfectly. You had people in the back room taking out fish oils out of their diet. It was that bad. It was unbelievable. And after the show, I've always said this. After the show, I was completely fine. I couldn't wait to go to an all buffet meat buffet. Couldn't wait. But in the back room, you had all these donuts and biscuits and chocolate and pizzas, everything. And these people were in the back room just literally scarfing themselves, like eating like non-stop. And you could see that there were like zombies walking on the stage. And I don't know about you, Nate, but when I stood beside people on stage, when they were holding poses, these people were, you could see it in their faces, they're getting ready to faint.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. That was the most mind-blowing thing to me because, of course, I did compete, like a decade prior, basically, on a high carbohydrate diet. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, I probably was having, at my peak, close to 500 grams of carbs a day, which is quite a lot. Um, and honestly, wouldn't be surprised if that contributed long term to my stomach issues that I ended up developing. But yeah, I was having tons of carbohydrates, and the difference between preparing and dieting on that diet versus the carnivore diet was actually extremely eye opening to me, and taught me a lot of, I guess, lessons about nutrition. Because yeah, when I did the carnivore diet, um, everything all the way through the diet, and I got very, very lean. Um, I mean, I don't know what I was at exactly. I would guesstimate around 4% ish. Um, yeah, everything still functioned normally. I had normal libido. It was crazy. I was mind blown because, when you diet and you do the high carbohydrate diet and you end up cutting your fats down, and
Mm,
you end up getting people that are eating, 45 grams of fat a day,
mm,
just in the name of trying to eat as many carbs as possible, which is kind of lunacy, if you ask me.
mm,
Um, Now it does work, it gets you shredded, don't get me wrong, but it's not necessarily wise in a health perspective. But
mm,
yeah, when you eat fats at 45, 40 grams a day, and you realize those hormonal basically the hormonal destruction of that, compared to a carnivore diet, it's like really eye opening as to how vital the fats are for your body function. Because I do specifically remember whenever I did a Western style high carb diet and I competed. For me, it was right at the about 60 to 65 grams a day. When my fats would go below that, it would be like night and day. All of a sudden, my body wanted to just like stop working
mm,
everything. I was like, you could just literally tell internally, you could tell by the way your body feels that stuff, like some switch flipped and just stuff was down regulating, and
mm,
it didn't feel good. It was a very bad feeling. That didn't happen with carnivore at all. Like, I was actually extremely mind blown by that. That was pretty eye opening to me. That was probably the biggest thing to me. That was like, wow, that's incredible.
mm.
And you can get lean just like people who do a standard diet. You can get leaner, I would say, doing a carnivore diet, and to do it healthier, much healthier.
100%. 100%. Couldn't agree with you
Well,
more.
and coming from a guy who's never done a bodybuilding competition, like, I mean, the stigma around that, like, people think, they associate the normies associate bodybuilding to health, and then they associate their contest
Mhm.
shape. And if people know, it's that strict dieting for a contest that is suffering. Like, if you're in, talk to anybody
Mhm.
that's done it, and from what I've heard from Mark and now with you, it's like, it's almost like you're taking it as that is a perfect indication that it's actually, you could argue, the right way, because your brain's working, and you're not
Mhm.
you're just manipulating your body fat percentage, but you're not sacrificing the neurotransmitters, the hormones, and that's quite amazing. Like Mark is
Yeah.
the only guy I've ever met that's done a bodybuilding competition as a carnivore. Now I've met two, and there's those gems that's fascinating, man. And how old are you now, Nate? Do you mind me asking?
I'm 31. I'll be 32 in November.
And then going back to when you switched to carnivore and you're going through your like the doctors and the gastroenterologists and the testing and the drugs and all that, what did they say when you switched carnivore and started feeling better?
Well, the gastroenterologists pretty much, outside of like handing me a pamphlet of a low FODMAP diet, wanted like nothing to do with discussing diet. That was honestly depressing to see, if I'm honest. It really, that's, I kind of have always been a skeptical thinker in general, kind of my whole life. But whenever I kind of really experienced the medical system like full force, and I was dealing with pretty severe issues myself, and I saw how they handled their business, it was quite obvious to me that these people are more interested in making money than in actually figuring out what is wrong with people. And now I don't want to attribute any one person to like having malintent or anything like that. I don't think it's that simple. I do think that just the system that we have is just in general, it's aligned for essentially maximizing profits. So you can't really necessarily blame individuals, so to speak. But it was very obvious that the people that I was dealing with were much more aligned with profits rather than actually trying to figure out what is causing people's issues. And it was just as simple as like you can see when you try to talk about nutrition with them, they don't even know what you're talking about most of the time. They don't even have a clue. They're just like kind of just throwing out things like eat high fiber, take probiotics, stuff like that. And it's like, man, this stuff isn't even understood in general. If you actually go read what's out there available in the scientific literature, people are just drawing conclusions based off of, what benefits their narrative the most, essentially. So, yeah, it was not good. They didn't, really even discuss diet with me at all. It wasn't a thing. Now, when I told my, so I had to go see, since I was in the military, I had a primary provider that I had to see consistently because of my disease. I actually got retired from the Air Force because it made me completely undeployable. So I did have to continually check up with a general practitioner, and he was the one that was in charge of a lot of the blood work I had to get done. And let me tell you, I got like an unbelievable amount of blood work done. I don't ever want to do that again. But he watched my blood work from the beginning through the whole process of me switching, and he asked me what I did, and I told him, I was like, yeah, I only eat meat. That's all I eat. And it helps me. And he just like gave me this smirk and was like, what? And I was like, yeah, that's it. And he was kind of like in disbelief, but I was like, that's all I do. And he's like, that's amazing. That's what he said. He said those words. He's like, that's amazing. I'm like, yeah. And like, this is one of our last meetings that I ever had with him. But yeah, it was interesting to be exposed to that. Pretty much the one guy was a little bit in disbelief, and then the gastros, they just didn't even really care, which, you would think the gastros of all people would care the most about your diet, but they really maybe spent 10 minutes on it. And that was, hey, here's a low FODMAP thing. We're not going to even tell you about this. Just read this pamphlet. That was literally what it was. So yeah, it was not a great experience. And I highly doubt it's gotten any better since then. So.
And it's funny because the ultimate FODMAP diet, I think for people that don't know what that is, fermentable oligosaccharides and polyols, would be a carnivore, like animal based heavy, no fiber. No, it's kind of funny how the truth is hidden in plain sight and they can't see it. It's wild.
Yeah. Well, what was really kind of wild to me is when I originally presented to them prior to having a diagnosis, I mean, it was obviously pretty clear I had either IBS or IBD. It's just, a matter of diagnosis at that point. And it's just kind of amazing to me, though. Their initial advice to me was to eat more fiber. And knowing what I know now, it's like, no, that's like the absolute worst thing somebody with IBD can do is eat more fiber. That's going to, and that's my number one trigger to this day is if I eat fiber, it's almost guaranteed if I can do high fiber one day and the next day I'm going to be literally in severe pain, probably waking up in the middle of the night feeling like I have knives being stuck into my gut. So yeah, and that's really mind blowing. It just really highlights their lack of understanding of nutrition, honestly.
Yeah. And I mean, you're one person at a time. These stories are coming out, and we're going to make it undeniable. They have to listen because, you know, if your head's in the sand and you're a doctor, I feel for them because, you know, they get taught and told something, but it's wild how they can't see what's right in front of their face. And I mean, you know, I've done some things, Mark's done some things. You've obviously, you know, resolved a lot of stuff with your own due diligence and your own, you know, leap of faith. And they still can't, you know, the system can't acknowledge it, which is, you know, that's scary. It's really,
it's extremely worrying because every second video you look on social media, everybody's talking that we're not protein deficient, we're fiber deficient. And it's like, oh my, this is coming from like the top experts that we have in this world. And it's like, oh my God, guys, we need to do better than this. We really need to do better than this. This is poor. This is really, really poor. How can we be giving out information about a nutrient or about something that's not even a nutrient? It's not it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling how they've convinced us that when we look at the two foods that are causing the most damage in the world at the moment, carbohydrates and fiber, we've been told that these are essential. This is what everybody should be eating these in their diet. It's it's laughable. It really is. It's just unbelievably laughable.
And Nate, how have you tested this out? Like, I mean, you mentioned that if you get stabbing pains, like, is there certain like a strategic way that you test this out, or was it just like sort of accidental by chance? But what you find that the fiber, do you are
Yeah.
you I'm over it. Let's go strict because you know I would.
Yeah. So, initially, when I first found out about this diet and I started implementing it and gave it a shot, and I found out that it worked, I was like, okay, yeah, I don't want to try nothing. I'm happy with this. This is great. And I stuck with that for multiple years. I don't know how it was probably 2 or 3 years. And you know, eventually, of course, you know, on the diet for so long, you start wondering like, okay, what can I do? What can I do?
Yeah.
I haven't done experimentation to the degree that because it works so good, I haven't really worried about it. Honestly, I'm very happy with the diet. I'm satisfied totally, and I feel the best I've ever felt, frankly.
Yeah.
But you know, I haven't done experimenting to the quality that I would like to do thus far. So actually, I'm about to go back strict carnivore, or I'm already doing it right now, back strict carnivore, and I do want to kind of actually do some legitimate experimentation and that kind of see, you know, what does what. But kind of more on a performance side, actually, for that specifically for the gym. But I have actually done a specific time where I tried to reintroduce just fruits because, you know, I kind of wanted to give the whole Paul Saladino camp a honest shot. Like I kind of believe in, you know, you got to try stuff for yourself if you really want to like be able to talk about it. And if you don't, you're just speculating, and that's kind of silly. So you know, I tried to just do fruits. So I just did like I don't remember exactly what I did, but I did like some berries, I think apples, bananas, so some random fruits. I just tried to add into my diet. So it was basically carnivore, added in fruits and honey, like Paul Saladino suggested. And I will say that adding the fruits in, there was a very distinct I don't know what you would call it. I guess like it was like you almost got a high from eating the sugar and the fruits. It was like there was almost like a dopamine rush from it, basically. And that was I will say that was very, very noticeable. I would just like eat some fruit on the way to the gym, and like the head rush that you got from that was like kind of crazy. It was like a drug, basically, if I'm being honest. And instantly, like it took me, I think I did that for 2 or 3 days, and I got a very severe flare up, and I'm very convinced that was from the fiber. because of like the pains I had and stuff that were, you know, pretty much reproducible when I introduced any level of fiber to my diet. Yeah, it took only about 3 days, and I was having a flare up, a very bad flare up. So actually, probably the worst one I had had in a very long time. So, you know, I'm not perfect on the diet. I definitely, you know, have times where I'll, you know, out of convenience, just grab something at the gas station or something that I really shouldn't eat. But it's like, oh, I'm going to the gym and I want to grab something, and I'll do that. And you know, I can kind of get away with that stuff. It doesn't bother me. But if I do that too often, it starts to accumulate pretty quickly. It doesn't take much.
Yeah. And I think, you know, when you're like, I just did a talk about this yesterday, and it's like, with your situation, like what came first, the diagnosis or the disease? Like we talked to a lot of people, and we noticed, like, we just had a couple girls with endometriosis on that female hormonal spectrum. By the time they know what's going on, they're screaming out like, I'm in pain, like, help me, you know.
Yeah,
And with
that was my
Crohn's,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that was my exact experience. I mean, I dealt with Crohn's literally. I think it started in 2015, and I didn't get diagnosed until 2018 or
Yeah.
something like that. So you know, like 3 years basically, where I was just, what the hell is going on with me? This sucks. And like
Yeah.
I said earlier, it just progressively got worse and worse. Like it kind of started off for me. For anybody that might be dealing with this stuff, it kind of started off for me like a month to month thing where, you know, I would go multiple months, and then one day I would just have, all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, I need to go to the bathroom right now. This is very painful, and I don't know if I can hold this. And that would be like every couple months, right? And it wasn't like consistent enough to even notice a pattern. And then over that first year, it started becoming like a weekly thing. And then eventually it was a multiple times per week thing. And then eventually it was like all the time. And I was like, okay, you know, so it took a few years to accumulate. And then, like I said, it got to the point where I was so desperate that I was like, I don't know what's happening right now. And even after I got my diagnosis, the stuff that the doctors were telling me to do and asking me and to try to have these like medications and stuff, you know, none of it was helpful whatsoever. So it made me more desperate because I was like realizing that these doctors are not giving me any helpful information that
That's
I
what
can
that
act
that
on.
Yeah, that's what pisses me off, Nate, that we're being told that you have this 3 or 4 year waiting list, like what you had and what these ladies have when they're going through endometriosis, and then at the end of those 4 years, you go and see these bleeding people, and it's like, okay, you guys now, I'm in your hands. You guys need to look after me, and it's not. It's just nothing mentioned about nutrition. It's like, okay, this medication is going to change your life. This surgery is going to change your life, and this is what I'm seeing at the moment with ladies that I work with. I've been told that like 16-year-olds are waiting 4 years, 4 years to be looked after when it comes to endometriosis. Now we only interviewed a young girl there about a month ago, or Ali, her name was. She's only 16 years of age. She dealt with this her whole life, and she even mentioned this herself on the podcast that she struggled. She was in severe pain going through this, and nobody gave her the answers. She had to figure this out herself. A young lady had to go on social media and learn this shit for herself. It's honestly, it's heartbreaking. It
And
really
then
is.
they told her, like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You tried it. Like,
Heartbreaking.
how would you feel, Nate? You know, you're you know, a military guy. Like, I can tell already, you're well disciplined and you're rational and logic. What did you have to say when people started saying, "Oh man, you're crazy. Like, this is nuts." And, you know, they're not feeling you, but you're feeling it, and it's like trying to justify it. And, you know, did you get it? Did you get it? How were family and friends?
Well, I've kind of always been the type of person that like I do whatever I think is right, and I don't really give a shit what people say, to be completely honest. And you know, luckily my family is very supportive of everything I do, so I never had to really deal with my family giving me any shit. But yeah, of course, people are always like, you know, what the hell are you doing? This is pretty crazy. And you know, for me, it's like the proof is in the pudding, if you want to say that, because, you know, I look at myself, how I'm doing and how I'm, you know, actively feeling the best that I've ever felt. And then I have these people that are, you know, metabolically distressed, let's put it that way, trying to tell me that I'm the crazy one. And, you know, they're clearly very visibly unhealthy. So for me, it's not, you know, okay, you can say what you want, but, you know, you
know?
you're not showing results that I'm interested in. So
Yeah.
I'm good on whatever you have to say.
Just look at me. Just look. That's what you need to do. Just look
Yeah.
at me.
Yeah.
That's all the evidence you need.
And
Pretty much, you know.
we're finding like, you know, with all these, you know, Crohn's disease is its own entity, but like, I mean, when people are dealing with gut issues, like you said, your window from disease to diagnosis is, everybody's sort of path is different now. I mean, when we were younger, I never heard of celiac, what the hell that is, but that's the way they describe this stabbing pain in their gut. And I mean, gluten is just causing the same, you know what I mean? And it's all we're separating IBS from Crohn's from celiac. But I mean, when you look at gut stability and the you know, the strength and the gut itself, you know, it's clear that fiber or lectins or whatever it is causing that distress. And we have to wait for the diagnosis to give a pill. Like, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, really, when you look at autoimmune disease across the board, you know, I'm speculating here. I have
Yeah.
no way to, you know, support this, I guess. But when you really look at it, if you look at how the carnivore diet specifically has helped people, thousands and thousands, tens and maybe hundreds of thousands of people, I don't know at this point, but tons of people have been helped by the carnivore diet with a variety of autoimmune issues. Like Michaela Peterson is a big one that everybody knows, is she had the rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
That's an autoimmune condition. So it kind of tells us it seems that the results people with immune conditions are getting from the carnivore diet seems to tell us that it definitely has something to do with the gut and with the diet. Because it just seems like across the board that different immune conditions are being effectively healed, or at least the symptoms are being subsided completely with a carnivore diet. And then if anybody has ever read Dr. Salisbury's book,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's a great book to read, because you can, number one, just by it's very obvious when you read what he's writing that he has an intimate knowledge of the human body because of his, you know, education and experience. And then when you read the things that he says, he basically describes how the carnivore diet essentially is what he prescribes as essentially a carnivore diet. But he essentially describes how the body heals from it and how it gets alimentation in the first place. So, yeah, I mean, that's a book everybody should read, in my opinion, because it just kind of really elucidates the entire system and the situation that's going on with their diet.
Yeah, and it's funny because we often talk about the history of food, and if you look at what a Salisbury steak is, people think it's a county in England or something. It's some kind of dish. There was actually a functional medical purpose for that, you know. And it was there the whole time, you know. Like we hear all this stuff, and then people are still in denial, and it's you know, if it quacks like a duck, you know, we say these things, and yet people still don't grasp the fact. And unfortunately, and I feel for you, because you had to go through this thing to get somewhere. And now, you know, it's so necessary for your story to be out there, because a lot of people, their diagnosis is 10, 15, 20 years away, possibly. But that whole process is happening. If you're feeling pain when you eat, something is going on. And, you know, we wait till we got to get told by a doctor that we got to do this. And usually, you know, that's, God forbid, a surgery, and you're scared, and they backed into a corner. And it's just so obvious that this is a practical approach to get your healing wherever you're at. And, you know, and that's where, you know, we come in with these shows and these interviews, because this is not a diet. This is, you know, it's a relearning of our humanness. Right. And it's just plain and simple. Like your story right now, we can tell fiber is not good for you. Simple.
You
know, no arguments.
And like in general, your diet should not make you feel bad. Your diet should not make your body dysfunctional. It should not metabolically dysregulate your body to the point where you cannot keep fat off your body. You know, people need to like just take a step back and just look at this rationally and say, okay, you know, just pay attention to what they're eating and say, is this making me feel good? Or is this giving me gas and bloating me and making me nauseous and giving me acid reflux? And am I uncontrollably gaining weight and I can't tell why? You know,
Good
it's
point.
really just stepping back and looking at yourself as an individual. Like, forget what people say outside of you. Just look at it in your n=1 scenario.
Mm.
What results are you getting from what you're eating? Do you actually feel good? If you don't feel good,
Yeah.
then that's a bad sign. Like, you should feel good mentally, physically. Your whole body should be a machine that operates like smoothly, and you should feel good. If you don't feel good, then you need to figure out why.
And
Well,
that's
well
something
said.
that Sean Baker, like, it actually stuck with me like years ago, was if you feel good today, the chances of you feeling good tomorrow are pretty good. If you
Yeah.
don't, and you're going the other way, well, you have some work to do, and there, you know, you have to figure some stuff out. And unfortunately, with the way our modern ways are, is we get put into these boxes and we get isolated by, oh, it's you. And I talked about this yesterday with genetics, or it's bad luck, or, you know, and we assume calories and food is all, it's just what we put in our bodies. It doesn't really matter what it is. Your body deals with it. And that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And, you know, like I said earlier, it's a this is all a byproduct of the system that we're in. There's no, like, I mean, there might be some people to point fingers at, like Ansel Keys and stuff like that, you know, back in the day. That's a whole different topic in itself. Um, people should just read, what is it called? My Big Fat Surprise. Is that the book?
Absolutely. That
People
was
should
one of
just
the
read
first
that book if
books.
they want to know about
Nina
that stuff.
Teicholz is
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great book to read just for, you know, self-education. But, you know, it's a byproduct of the system we live in. The people that are educating us aren't even properly educated on this stuff, you know? So it's like you can only expect so much out of where we are. So that's why it's so important for people to be individuals and not be in that herd mentality of just like, you know, what's the mainstream information and that's what I'm going to follow. No, like, you need to be skeptical. You need to be skeptical and open-minded at the same time, to where you're just willing to try and see what actually works. Because, you know, I think, especially when it comes to like the carnivore diet and just diet in general, it's pretty much self-evident when you actually are honest and objective with yourself, and you try things out and you see what actually works and how you feel, and you don't lie to yourself because there's some mainstream narrative that you're pressured into.
Yeah.
That's really what people need to do at the end of the day, because I think that the truth is self-evident, and it kind of is undeniable when you really see it.
And not to mention, you mentioned before, when in your sort of in your transition period, you know, you went through some weird, you know, what did you call it, carnivore dietaria or something. That's,
Oh yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And I think when people aren't like, because I see this being a little bit of a problem with the miraculous turnarounds with people having super quick, because a
Mhm.
lot of people take a long time to adjust,
Yes, yes.
and they get scared off, no pun intended, off the pot, because all of a
Mhm.
sudden they're like, whoa, this is crazy. I'm suffering like in a different way, but they don't
Mhm.
realize what's happening to their body. And it's definitely, there's nuance there. Like with some people, you know, they don't even feel any diarrhea. They don't even feel keto flu. They
Right.
don't feel any.
Yeah.
They just, all of a sudden, body fat just starts shedding,
Mhm.
or they feel amazingly bright. But you know, there's other people that, you know, I've worked with people that took 6 months for like literally nothing happening
Yeah.
except for feeling better. But as far as body fat, as far as healing, they still,
Mhm.
and the it's that whole, you know, taking it upon yourself. And I think you're well said about the N of one. Like, you got to just be honest with yourself and look at it logically. And
Yeah.
you know,
And that's where I would go back to and reference Dr. Salisbury's book again on that, because he outlined specifically the fact that some, uh, I guess if you want to call them diseases or illness, it takes a long time to heal. The body has to go through multiple processes in order to like fully heal the entire system. It's a system-wide thing, and you got to think about it. Some people, you know, you just spent 2 decades destroying your body. You cannot expect this to turn
yeah,
around in a week or 2.
Mm.
And yes, for anybody listening, there is definitely an adjustment period when you switch your diet. I mean, look at what happens if you switch your dog's diets. They instantly start having gastric distress and stuff like that. So it's normal. The body has to adjust, and it doesn't just adjust like instantly.
Mm.
So, you know, to do a diet change like this and, you know, try to do it successfully, you need to understand that number one, there's an adjustment period, and that comes with, you know, maybe not feeling the best in the first 2 weeks. maybe like I experienced, you might have diarrhea. You know, that stuff goes away though over time. And if you give it 30 to 60 days, you're going to realize that, oh, okay, I'm adjusting. I can feel the difference, and it really becomes, like I said, self-evident.
Mm.
But yeah, it's not going to happen overnight, especially if you took two decades to get yourself to where you're at now. Don't expect it to take 1 week to fix yourself. That's
Yeah,
just
yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what Bart Kay says. Bart Kay says if you spent the majority of your life just abusing your
yeah.
body, it's going to take pretty much the same time for your body to
Hmm.
heal. I mean, I only finished a podcast with a guy that was going through this. He's been doing carnivore for 4 years, but to this day, he still feels it like he's healing because that sugar
Hmm.
addiction is still in the back of his mind.
Yeah.
He's still, when he goes into the supermarket, he's always thinking about this. So
Hmm.
he knows he hasn't fully recovered yet. And
Yeah.
this is what we need to understand is that if you have a problem, which what we all had a sugar problem, we all had a food
Hmm.
addiction problem. Nobody realized it. But when you
Hmm.
realize that you do have a problem, it's gonna take a bit of time. It really
Yeah.
is. It's not gonna happen overnight. It took me nearly 6 months, 8 months to get over my sugar addiction. I thought
Hmm.
I'd never get over it. Honestly, sugar for me was the devil. I was like Nathan. Nathan's story resonates with me because I did the bro diet. I was eating the Quest bars. I was eating like 6 times a day, but I was constantly hungry. I always had that dopamine hit. I'd want sugar. I want sugar. I'd want sugar. I'd wake up in the middle of the night. I'd be starving. I'd have a protein shake. I'd have a banana. I could never switch it off.
Hmm.
And the biggest thing, as I said, the biggest thing for me when I came into the carnivore diet was, okay, I need to understand, okay, I do have a problem here. I have a major, major problem here. And if I want to fix this problem, I need to give this shit time.
Yeah. And you got to ask yourself too, for those out there that are trying to do this, even if it takes you years to fully heal yourself, and that seems like a lot of work and a lot of investment. Would you rather invest in your long-term health? And, if you're, in your 40s now, would you rather be 60 years old and have invested in your health and like be able to like look back and say, I'm glad I did this? Or do you want to take an easy route that's just more comfortable, I guess?
Exactly, yeah.
And just because you're not getting quick enough results, you got to really ask yourself the hard questions and be objective. That's really what everybody has to do, is just, ask yourself the hard questions and be honest. And you're gonna kind of have to face your fears in that sense. Because I noticed with a lot of people, it's not so much knowing what to do. It's the behavioral and mental battle that they have to fight with themselves.
Mm.
And it comes with facing your fears and really like looking yourself in the eye and saying, all right, listen, I want to do what's best for me, not, what feels best.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Even
it's
though carnivore feels best in my opinion, but
yeah,
it's
and
just
I
me.
mean, and it's interesting when you because that's kind of when you mentioned the Paul Saladino thing, and that in my opinion, that's the way you did it was the right way. Like, okay, well,
Mhm.
let's see what happens. And I'm not saying fruit this or fruit that. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody's lives and their path is different. I mean, but when my problem is when he's saying this is the way,
Mm.
you take 300 grams of carbohydrates or
Mhm.
you need fruit in your diet. And I would push back and say, hold on, Paul. Like I learned a hell of a lot from that guy when I first
Mhm.
started. And I was like, I can understand his lifestyle is very active. And oh my
Right.
Lord, if I was out in the sun, put my feet on the ground, I'd be happy to enjoy a mango from time to time. But I live
Mhm.
in Canada. I'm up like there's no
Right.
season. The fruit's very seasonal. If
Yeah.
any, we've got berries, but that's the nuance and it's good for you to sure, give it a shot. I mean, if anything, we're doing these dietary interventions and changing our mindset to live better. And but that's the
And
very
yeah, but that's what
free skill.
Tony, that's what we're seeing at the moment. We're seeing that with the sugar diet at the moment.
Yeah.
We're seeing this with all these influencers, the people that we looked up to, the likes of Mark Bell's.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
you
a
know what I mean. I followed Mark Bell for such a long time. When he did carnivore, I was watching this guy. I was studying this guy. Everything he was saying was perfect. I used to listen to his podcast. He used to have the likes of keto. What's his name? What's his
Keto
name?
Savage, Robert
Yeah,
Sykes.
yeah.
Yeah.
He knew what he was talking about. And I was like, okay, I need to keep following this guy. He's amazing. But now he's turned it like Paul Saladino. He's turned, and he now. What's pissing me off is he's convincing people that this is the way. If I can do it, then you can do it. But people don't understand that when we look at Paul Saladino, he's got this amazing lifestyle. When we look at Mark Bell is enhanced. He takes fucking steroids.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So he can get away with this shit. His body can get away with this shit. Now, this is what we spoke about at the beginning. But when we think about weight loss and looking the part and being healthy, and this is what's going on in the world at the moment. We're focusing on the wrong bleeding problem because we're convincing people that if you want to be healthy, you just need to lose weight. Just lose weight. Just have a set of abs. Walk around with a set of abs, and you're healthy. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Because I did that myself. I was able to get in shape very, very easily eating 6 times a day. Easily. But I can tell you right now, like Nathan, I felt like shit. Especially eating a high fiber diet. I felt like shit. And I knew fully well that I couldn't sustain this. I knew fully well that when I did get down to like 8 or 9% body fat, I couldn't stay because I was ravishing. I was starving. You know what I mean? Whereas now I'm walking around, I don't have no idea what my body fat percentage is at the moment, but I'm walking around with a 6-pack at the moment, and I'm eating a shitload of food, and I'm happy. I think that's where we need to put our focus. Like what Nathan said, when you're doing a diet, is it making you happy? If it's not making you happy, then you need to adjust it. Something needs to be changed. Whereas all of us can agree that we're eating food now. We're never hungry. We're satisfied. And I can pretty much say for all 3 of us, we're happy. And that's it.
I mean, shoot, I would say I have a hard time eating enough food. Honestly, I get too lean from carnivore. Actually, yeah. And yeah, on the carbohydrate thing with Paul Saladino and Mark Bell, people should realize number one, like you said, these guys have very exceptional lifestyles that very few people could even imagine having. And number two, they're both very muscular men. The amount of carbohydrates you can tolerate is proportional to the amount of muscle on your body.
Absolutely.
So if you're a relatively sedentary person, or you just are a female with much less muscle than a male, your tolerance is going to be way lower than these guys. So they're not really somebody you want to even like necessarily try to emulate in that sense.
It's the same as sorry, Nathan. And it's the same as someone's like working on a building site. When you look at like someone's lifestyle, if someone works on a building site and they're on their feet all day and they're lifting heavy bricks and stuff like that, then there's probably an argument that these people can get away with eating carbohydrates because it's going to burn it off. But if you look at someone like that to someone like who's sitting at an office like 8 times a day, it's night and day difference. Night and day difference.
I mean, go ahead. Sorry, Nate.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't know if you had seen recently, there was kind of a short clip going around. I don't know I wish I knew what the podcast. I don't really follow them, but a bunch of people sent it to me where the guy was saying like, oh, the number one sign that you're going to have like good long-term health is if you have muscle on your body. I don't know if you guys saw something like that going around. Are you familiar?
I do. And I mean, I think I'm in that's really, really familiar.
Yeah. Sure. And I'll never debate the fact that building muscle is very beneficial for your health. I'll always support that. But unfortunately, I think that correlation, because that's all it is, it's a association, it's a correlation, comes into play because most of our diseases and most of the issues we have are related to people becoming overweight, obese, getting type 2 diabetes and stuff like that. And then, of course, if you were to equate that with somebody that has lots of muscle, they're going to tolerate carbohydrates better. So of course you're going to be able to make that association. But I just found that was interesting how you kind of see parallels with like the diseases that we're seeing and essentially carbohydrate consumption.
Yeah. And I mean, you're right. And it's nuanced. We just had Coach Al Reeves, like a UK bodybuilder on, and he carb cycles, but he's dialed in. You can tell he's specifically using them as a tool. And there's way more to it. It's not just about doing some I get to eat sugar. He's specifically using them for his workouts, for his performance, and he changes it up. He tries things out, and the way he helps people, there's a very wide spectrum and nuance to somebody, and that's where we separate that too. Because if you're sugar addicted, then it's a different conversation. You
Yeah.
know, if you're an office person, you know, if you're elderly and you're going towards frailty, your muscle, your bone density, and you're just holding on to your muscle is important. You know,
But
Yeah.
but you know what, Tony? I see now. You know that I'm not a big fan of carbohydrates, but I have seen tremendous benefits with women
yeah,
when they add a little bit of carbohydrate in
yeah,
before training. Now, it's just a small amount. It's only
Yeah.
about 20, 30 grams. But I honestly, I feel like if women are prepping for a show,
Mm.
like they fill out so much better when they add a little bit of carbohydrate in before the workout. That's what I've seen. I've seen tremendous benefits from women. Now, that's from a physical aspect when you look at them. From a
Yes.
health aspect, that's
Yeah.
completely different.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of
I just want to make sure people understand that I'm talking about a physical aspect here. I'm not talking about health.
yeah. There's a lot of nuance to that discussion because, you know, number one, I do intend on actually experimenting with that this time around and seeing kind of like 30 grams of carbs, what it does. That's something I'm gonna experiment with. But there's a lot of nuance to that because, you know, when you talk about leveraging carbohydrates like this, I mean, the amount of benefit you're talking about is like 1 to 5% at best. So
Mm.
it's like, number one, is it even really truly an effect? Is it more like placebo? And number two, it's just such a small effect. It's like kind of neither here nor there. It's more just for fun. But yeah, I will say, like you said, Mark, there could be some benefit to just filling yourself out and stuff like that, like kind of super compensating in the glycogen stores and stuff like that. But that's purely visual. It's and it's more totally specific to bodybuilding anyway. So from a health perspective, it's not necessary whatsoever.
No.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I don't go. I'm not in the gym on a regular basis. I mean, I'm active. I make sure I'm doing stuff. I practice yoga. I'm you know, like I help my friend's moving company to come out of retirement to go help him. And I'm twice as old as everybody that's there. My energy is great.
Yep.
My strength doesn't really change because when I do go to the gym, I don't notice you know, I'm talking about somebody who's not a performance athlete. So, you know, as long as I'm not losing strength and I'm not getting weaker, I kind of have that bar. But I mean, I still love to lift heavy shit once in a while. And I don't need carbohydrates, and I've thought about it, but I don't care because for the benefit that it possibly would give me, I don't see myself personally any reason to try and play around with it because
Right.
you know what I mean? But it would change if I got super strict and went on, you know, for a purpose and went to the gym with some kind of training goal in mind. Maybe I would play around with them. But I mean, as far as me needing carbohydrates, that I don't agree with that. So I think the average person compared to what we're talking about, you know, that's and it takes we get generalized. Like Mark, you were talking about Mark Bell, like and Paul Saladino, even Nate, like we're talking, they're talking like everybody should do this. Like this is what you need to do. And that's where I think like, whoa, we need to slow down here and like assess your own context, your own life.
Yeah. And you know, I've read through tons of literature on ketogenic versus, of course, there's unfortunately no carnivore specific. I think that would be extremely interesting to look at carnivore for performance, because when you eliminate the plants and the stuff that comes along with those, you're probably eliminating a lot more inflammation that's there too. Yeah. So who knows what the performance benefits could be from that, but that's not out there yet. Eventually, one day, hopefully we'll have that data. But right now we do have tons of literature on ketogenic versus Western carbohydrate diet, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, the consensus for most of the studies that have been done is that as long as, you know, energy intake, whatever term you want to use for that, calories, you know, whatever camp you're in there, is equated, protein is equated, there's no difference in performance. So like you're not benefiting from having carbs versus not having carbs, or, you know, vice versa. You know, there's no difference. You're still getting the same, you know, growth and all that stuff. The only differences that really are noted is that the ketogenic groups pretty much reliably, obviously they oxidize fat easier because that's the energy pathway they're using, but they pretty much reliably are leaner. That's like about the only real difference. So I would say that's a pretty big benefit personally, if you care about, you know, just being looking good.
And you know, saying like touching on your point there, like this is the other thing that we can't really study is the efficiency of your body will greatly depend on the adaptation that the path you're on. So
Yeah.
somebody who's been a carnivore, like Sean Baker, for instance, somebody who's been a carnivore for 6 or 7 years is going to be different than somebody on a carnivore diet for 2 months.
Exactly.
You know, even a keto diet, like, you know, there's people like Al was like, he's been keto for over 10 years. His like his performance is going to greatly differ from somebody who's just started a ketogenic diet. And I think
that's probably one of my biggest critiques about these studies, actually, is most of the time they're taking people and putting them on a keto diet where they came from Western diet. And it's like, that's not apples to apples.
It needs more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, at least 6 months, in my opinion, if you're going to take somebody off of a Western diet and then put them on a keto.
Because that's one thing I've noticed. I was always told that, and I always believed this, that if I go on a low carbohydrate diet, my muscles will deflate. That's what I always believed that. But I've been doing this now well over 4 years now, and my muscles have actually gotten bigger.
Yeah, I mean, you can.
Because I adapted to this lifestyle.
Yeah, that's not true. You can look at my Instagram.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
You know, I've noticed that too with me. Like, I mean, my physicality, like I'm turning 50 in a couple weeks, and I've taken I did this selfie because when I first started, I was like, holy shit, my whole life I was the short fat kid. I was always stocky, short, pudgy, whether I was, you know, never abs. Even I had times in my life where I got, you know, strict and in the gym for 6 months, never could lose that thing around my body fat. My physicality over the last 5 years is pretty much the same. And it's clear that there's something there, right? Like, it's not, you don't lose, like losing it is just as important as getting it, you know? And I think that's where this sort of mindset, this lifestyle that we've never been fully nourished. And when you're fully nourished, it changes the game. So
that's really the name of the game. It's the nourishment that you get from the fat soluble vitamins that are available and the cholesterol and all that stuff that's available on an animal-based diet or a carnivore diet is just second to none. And that's really kind of brings it full circle with what I was saying earlier about the difference between prepping on a Western diet versus prepping on a carnivore diet was, you know, very tangible. And it's definitely the nourishment that you're getting from, you know, the fat in your diet for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Nate, we can't let you go without telling us what you're eating on a daily basis.
Yeah.
These days, pretty much just lots of ribeyes, ribeyes, butter, salt, water, eggs here and there. I sometimes have bacon, but that's usually just random, honestly. But yeah, pretty much just lots of meat. That's all I like.
How many times a day?
About 2 times a day. Yeah, just 2 big meals. Yesterday I did have just 2 pounds of meat in one sitting. That's what I did. But usually it's about 2 times a day. That's all I really want to eat. I don't really get hungry enough to eat 3 times a day. I don't think I could do that, actually. But yeah, 1 to 2 times a day is all I need.
Any plans to compete again?
We'll see. Right now I'm just honestly training my butt off as hard as I can, trying to improve my weak points. Which I've been, you know, pretty happy with the results I've gotten so far. So we'll see, but probably still a couple years if I'm going to.
Nice.
Amazing.
And before we let you go, Nate, we want to respect your time. We really do appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a pleasure.
No problem.
Pleasure meeting you, and I'd love to come on. Maybe we'll do a specific sort of training talk where it's a little bit more tailored towards what you do, and because I think there's a missing piece. Mark's a little bit more into the fitness side of things, and it's but I think a lot of people they sort of get wrapped up in everybody's doing these things, and you know, a lot of young kids need to know about this way, especially when they're trying to put on muscle, and I think hearing different voices about, you know, what is or isn't all the bro shit needs to be said, you know, and it's
that's definitely a podcast in itself. I could talk about training forever. Honestly, I could talk about that for hours. That's like my main love. That's the reason I got into bodybuilding was because I just love to train, honestly. But yeah, that's a topic in itself, and the training stimulus by itself is a stimulus by itself, just like diet is a stimulus by itself. The training stimulus is a very important stimulus by itself. So and there's so much terrible information out there when it comes to training. So yeah, I would love to do that.
Me and you, Nathan, could do at least 5 hours on this.
Yeah. Yeah,
At least
easy.
5 hours.
Let's do
for
it.
sure.
Nate, where can people find you? And do you have any last words for people out there that are suffering?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram's really the only place I'm active these days. _ Nathaniel _ 93. And yeah, for people that are struggling with stuff, you know, there's a lot of bad information out there, and unfortunately, we really can't look to our, you know, doctors for a whole lot of help these days. So, you know, like I said, be objective with yourself, be honest with yourself, and, you know, try things and see how you feel. You know, I would obviously suggest, in my experience, try the carnivore diet if you haven't tried it, and see how it affects you. Give it a month, give it 2 months, and just be honest with yourself, be objective, and, you know, face your fears on the kind of the unknown, and you know, just take it one day at a time, and you know, be your own N=1 and figure out what works for you. Because ultimately, you go out on the internet and you're liable to get just completely misled. So,
well said, my man. Nate, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
thank you.
We'll keep in touch. If you
Yeah.
want to just hang out while we stop this, we'll
Mhm.
get your details so that we can post all that stuff on the description. Man, appreciate the words. I'm happy that you got a chance to heal, and it's nice to see. And I think your message is very important. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.